She laughed. You're seriously upset over a few selfies with my boss? After I found photos from their weekend retreat, I said, no, I'm just done being a janitor in my own relationship. Her boss's wife didn't laugh when she got the anonymous package. For the past 18 months, I felt like I was running a one-man support operation in my own relationship. It's a strange feeling to describe to people who haven't lived it. I wasn't Steven the boyfriend. I was Steven the logistics coordinator, the house manager, the emotional cheerleader who made sure everything ran smoothly so Rachel could chase her dreams. I handled the grocery runs to Whole Foods, the mountain of laundry, the Sunday meal prep, the mortgage payments on our brownstone in Brooklyn Heights. I was the guy who remembered to schedule the cleaning lady, who made sure there was always fresh coffee in the morning, who picked up her dry cleaning without being asked. I did it all gladly because I believed I was investing in our future. I thought we were building something together, that I was the foundation while she reached for the stars. I see now that I wasn't building anything with her. I was just the maintenance crew for her launching pad. The rising star narrative was centered around her boss, a man named Marcus Wellington. He was the managing partner at Pemberton and Associates, one of Manhattan's most prestigious consulting firms. Tall, distinguished, with that perfect silver at the temples look that screams executive presence, Marcus had taken Rachel under his wing from day one. At first, I was genuinely thrilled for her. Here was this industry titan mentoring my girlfriend, fast-tracking her toward the partnership track that most consultants spend a decade chasing. Marcus says I have the strategic thinking to make senior partner before 30, she'd tell me over dinner, her eyes practically glowing. He's never seen raw talent like mine. The way she said his name, Marcus, like it carried some kind of magic. Their work relationship became all-consuming. There were late-night strategy sessions at the office that stretched past midnight. Power dinners at Lou Bernardine and 11 Madison Park where they'd network with clients. Weekend leadership retreats in the Hamptons that were absolutely crucial for her development. The latest was a 3-day executive summit in Napa Valley. She packed her best business attire, her new MacBook Pro, and told me how this retreat could seal her promotion to senior consultant. This is it, Steven, she said, adjusting her blazer in our bedroom mirror. Marcus is introducing me to the West Coast clients. If I nail this presentation, I'm looking at a $200,000 salary bump. I kissed her goodbye at JFK, wishing her luck, then drove back to Brooklyn to spend my weekend power washing our back deck and organizing the garage. The same garage where I kept my tools, my motorcycle, and apparently, my dignity. But sometimes the universe has other plans for your carefully organized life. The discovery happened the way these things always do, by complete accident at the worst possible moment, when you're least prepared for your world to implode. We had a shared iCloud account set up months ago, mainly so we could share photos with our families back in Ohio. I barely used it, preferring to keep my photos on my phone. But 3 days after Rachel returned from Napa, I was working on my laptop when a notification popped up in the corner of my screen, new photos added to shared album. I clicked it without thinking, expecting to see conference room shots and group photos with her colleagues. You know, the kind of professional networking pictures that end up on LinkedIn with captions about, grateful for this incredible learning opportunity. What I found instead was a collection of 43 photos that told a very different story about Rachel's executive development. There was a photo of her and Marcus clinking glasses of Dom Perignon on a private terrace overlooking the valley, the golden California sunset painting everything in warm, intimate light. There was another of them laughing at what was clearly a romantic dinner for two at some exclusive vineyard restaurant, their heads leaned in close like they were sharing secrets. There was one of Rachel alone, wrapped in a plush white hotel robe, the kind you only find in $1,000-a-night suites, giving the camera a playful, seductive smile. The person behind that camera was obviously Marcus. The timestamp showed 11:47 p.m. But the final photo was the one that made my blood turn to ice water. It was a selfie taken from a low angle. They were lying in bed together, propped up on Egyptian cotton pillows, a crisp white duvet pulled up to their chests. Rachel's head was resting on Marcus's bare shoulder. His arm was wrapped around her. They both had that satisfied post-intimacy glow that you can't fake. The photo was captioned, "Perfect end to a perfect weekend, 2 hearts." I sat there in our kitchen for what felt like hours just staring at the screen. The coffee I'd been drinking went cold. Outside, I could hear kids playing in Prospect Park, the distant sound of the subway, normal life continuing like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. The feeling that washed over me wasn't the explosive rage I would have expected. It was something worse, a profound, hollow understanding that I had been played. Completely, systematically played. All my support, all my sacrifice, All those weekend hours I spent maintaining our life while she was networking, it had all been to give her the freedom and stability to build a relationship with another man. I had been funding the infrastructure for her affair. The internship was over. But this time I wasn't going to leave quietly. When Rachel walked through our front door that evening, wheeling her designer suitcase and talking on her phone about leveraging the momentum from this weekend, I was sitting at our dining table with my laptop open. "Hold on, Marcus," she said into her phone, giving me a distracted wave. "Let me call you back in a few minutes." I waited until she hung up. Then I turned the laptop screen toward her. "Tell me about the executive summit," I said quietly. The color drained from her face in real time. Rachel saw the photos on my screen and for just a split second her mask slipped. I saw panic flash across her face, raw, genuine fear. But then, like watching a master actress slip into character, she forced that brittle, dismissive laugh. "Oh my God," she said, rolling her eyes and tossing her hair back. "You're seriously upset over a few selfies with my boss? Stephen, come on. It was a work event. We were celebrating closing the Henderson account. You need to relax." The casual way she dismissed what I was seeing, the way she tried to make me feel like the unreasonable one, it was masterful. If I hadn't been looking at photographic evidence of her lying naked next to another man, I might have actually believed her. "A work event," I repeated, clicking through the photos slowly. "This one here where you're in a hotel robe at midnight, that's work?" She crossed her arms, doubling down. "It was a spa weekend, Stephen. Team building. Marcus believes in work-life balance. The company paid for everything. And this one?" I clicked to the final photo. "The one where you're in bed together? What kind of team-building exercise is that?" Now the performance shifted. The dismissive laugh became defensive anger. "You're being paranoid and controlling. Marcus is my mentor. He's helping me build my career. If you can't handle me being successful, maybe you should examine your own insecurities instead of stalking my social media." I looked at her, really looked at her, standing in our living room wearing the necklace I'd bought her for our anniversary, trying to convince me that black was white. The sadness inside me crystallized into something harder, colder. "No," I said, my voice completely flat. "I'm not upset about the selfies." I closed the laptop. "I'm just done being a janitor in my own relationship." She looked confused, like I'd started speaking a foreign language. "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" "It means I'm done doing all the maintenance work for a life I'm not actually part of," I explained, standing up from the table. "I handle the logistics, the bills, the domestic labor, the emotional support, all so the star player can focus on her performance. But I don't get credit, I don't get respect, and apparently I was never going to get promoted to an actual partner." I walked toward our bedroom, then turned back to face her. "My contract is being terminated, Rachel. You need to pack your things and get out of my apartment." The performance finally cracked. The smug confidence vanished, replaced by cold, sharp fury. "You can't be serious," she hissed. "You're throwing away 3 years over some innocent pictures? Stephen, I love you. This is insane." "The pictures aren't innocent and we both know it," I replied. "You love Marcus. I was just the guy keeping your real life running smoothly in the background. But the internship is over, Rachel. Find somewhere else to live." She stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. Maybe she was. "You'll regret this," she said, her voice shaking with rage. "You have no idea what you're walking away from." But I wasn't walking away from anything. I was walking toward something better. And I had plans for Marcus Wellington that would make Rachel's threats seem like whispered prayers. The week that followed Rachel's eviction notice was like watching a masterclass in emotional warfare. She refused to believe I was serious about ending things, cycling through every manipulation tactic with the precision of someone who'd clearly used them before. First came the rage phase. She called me controlling, jealous, and pathetic. She screamed that I was trying to sabotage her career because I couldn't handle dating someone more successful than me. "You're intimidated by my ambition," she shouted during one particularly dramatic scene in our kitchen. "Marcus sees my potential, but you just want to keep me small." When the anger didn't break me, she switched to tears. Suddenly she was the heartbroken girlfriend who couldn't understand how I could throw away our beautiful relationship over a misunderstanding. She'd sob about how much she loved me, how we were meant to be together, how she'd made a terrible mistake but it meant nothing. "It was just ego, Stephen," she cried one evening, mascara running down her cheeks. "He made me feel important at work and I got caught up in it. But you're the one I come home to. You're the one I love." The performance was almost convincing. Almost. When the tears failed to move me, she tried the third strategy, acting like nothing had happened. She'd make dinner, ask about my day, snuggle up next to me on the couch like we were still the happy couple we'd never actually been. It was surreal, watching her pretend that I hadn't seen photographic evidence of her affair. Through it all, I remained completely calm. I'd moved into our spare bedroom and kept the door locked. Every morning, I'd tell her the same thing: you have 4 more days to find a new place to live before I start the formal eviction process. The mention of legal proceedings seemed to finally convince her that I wasn't bluffing. Her parents called on day 5, her mother's voice shrill through the phone. "Stephen, how can you be so cruel? Rachel is devastated. She made one mistake and you're destroying her life over it." "Mrs. Morrison," I said calmly, "ask your daughter to show you the photos from her Napa Valley conference. Then call me back if you still think it was one mistake." The line went quiet. They never called back. While Rachel was cycling through her emotional strategies, I was operating on a completely different level. Breaking up with her wasn't enough. The disrespect ran too deep, and the betrayal was too calculated. She and Marcus had built their affair on the foundation of my home, my support, my trust. They turned me into an unwitting accomplice in my own humiliation. A simple breakup would let them continue their arrangement with 0 consequences. They'd probably be relieved to not have to sneak around anymore. But there was another stakeholder in this situation who deserved to know the truth. Someone who had as much invested in Marcus Wellington's integrity as I'd had in Rachel's. His wife. I spent my evenings researching Marcus Wellington's family life. It wasn't difficult. He was something of a public figure in Manhattan's business community. His wife, Catherine Wellington, was frequently mentioned in articles about charity galas and museum fundraisers. She served on the board of the Metropolitan Opera and chaired a foundation for underprivileged children. They'd been married for 22 years. They had twin daughters who were sophomores at Columbia. Catherine Wellington deserved to know what kind of man she was married to, and I was going to make sure she found out. But I was going to be very, very careful about how that information reached her. My plan required precision, patience, and complete anonymity. I couldn't afford to leave any trace that would connect me to what was about to happen to Marcus Wellington's carefully constructed life. I drove to a FedEx office in New Jersey, 40 miles from Brooklyn, wearing a baseball cap and paying cash for everything. I printed high-quality 8x10 color copies of the 5 most damning photographs: the champagne toast on the terrace, the intimate dinner, Rachel in the hotel robe, and the crown jewel, that selfie of them in bed together. I also printed a copy of the hotel folio that I'd found saved as a PDF in our shared cloud drive. The Auberge du Soleil, Napa Valley. Presidential suite. 2 nights. Room service charges for champagne, strawberries, and a couple's massage. Definitely not standard corporate retreat expenses. I didn't write a long, angry letter. I didn't need to. The evidence spoke for itself. I simply typed one sentence on plain white paper: "Your husband's executive retreats seem much more personal than professional." I placed everything in a manila envelope, used a prepaid stamp, and drove to another town to drop it in a public mailbox. No fingerprints, no security cameras that could identify me, no digital trail. All I had to do now was wait for the earthquake. Rachel finally moved out on Saturday, hiring movers while I was at my gym. I came home to find half our furniture gone and a single word scrawled on a post-it note stuck to our refrigerator: "Coward." I looked at that note for a long time, then looked around my quiet, reclaimed apartment. I didn't feel like a coward. I felt like someone who'd finally stopped letting other people write the story of his life. For 3 weeks there was beautiful silence. I rearranged the furniture, got rid of Rachel's decorative pillows and scented candles, and made the place mine again. I started cooking meals I actually wanted to eat. I played my music as loud as I wanted. I forgot how peaceful life could be when you weren't constantly managing someone else's drama. I began to wonder if my anonymous envelope had even worked. Maybe Catherine Wellington had received it and chosen to do nothing. Maybe she already knew about her husband's affairs and had made peace with it. Maybe rich people just handled these things differently. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon while I was reviewing quarterly reports at my office, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "What did you do?" The number was Rachel's. She must have gotten a new phone. The text was followed by another, then another. "Marcus was just escorted out of the building by security. Everyone is staring at me. What did you do to us? Answer your phone, you psychopath. You've ruined my life. I know this was you. I know what you did." A slow, satisfied smile spread across my face as I turned my phone to silent mode. The package had landed. And from the sound of Rachel's panic, it had exploded exactly as I'd hoped. But I had no idea just how spectacular the fallout was going to be. The full story of Marcus Wellington's downfall reached me 3 days later through my college roommate Jake, who works in the legal department at Pemberton and Associates. He called me during his lunch break, his voice a mixture of shock and barely contained excitement. "Dude, you are not going to believe the nuclear-level drama that just went down at my office," he said. "Remember I told you about that hotshot managing partner, Marcus Wellington? The guy with the corner office in the Porsche? Well, he just got absolutely destroyed, and it's the most spectacular corporate takedown I've ever witnessed." I leaned back in my desk chair, trying to sound casually interested. "No kidding? What happened?" Jake launched into the story with the enthusiasm of someone who'd front-row seats to a 5-car pileup. Apparently, Catherine Wellington was not the type of woman to suffer in silence or handle things quietly behind closed doors. When she received that anonymous envelope, she didn't confront Marcus at home. She didn't scream or cry or throw his clothes on the lawn. Instead, she scheduled a meeting with Pemberton and Associates head of human resources and their chief legal counsel. In that meeting, she presented the contents of the envelope as evidence of a serious violation of corporate policy. A senior executive engaged in an inappropriate relationship with his direct subordinate. "She was brilliant about it," Jake continued. "She didn't come in as the scorned wife looking for revenge. She came in as a concerned citizen pointing out a potential liability to the company. She talked about sexual harassment lawsuits, about hostile work environments, about the reputational damage this could cause to the firm if it became public. The HR department had no choice but to launch an immediate investigation. Marcus was called into a conference room where he was presented with the photographic evidence of his affair. According to Jake, he tried to deny it at first, claiming the photos were fabricated. But then they showed him the hotel bill," Jake said, laughing. "A presidential suite and couples massage on the company credit card? There was no talking his way out of that. Marcus was suspended on the spot. His corporate accounts were frozen, his key card was deactivated, and security escorted him from the building carrying his personal belongings in a cardboard box. The entire office watched it happen. It was like something out of a movie," Jake said. "This guy who thought he was untouchable, getting perp-walked past all the junior associates he used to intimidate. People were taking pictures with their phones. But Marcus's humiliation was only half the story. Rachel's situation had become equally devastating. With her mentor and protector gone, she was suddenly exposed as the other half of a massive corporate scandal. The same colleagues who used to envy her access to Marcus now treated her like she had a contagious disease. "She's been completely ostracized," Jake explained. "Nobody will work with her, nobody will even talk to her. She got pulled off all her major accounts. Word is, she's basically been given nothing to do except sit at her desk and wait for HR to figure out what to do with her." The rising star had become a black hole, sucking all the light out of every room she entered. Jake had no idea I had any connection to this story. To him, I was just a friend who enjoyed hearing about office drama. I made appropriate sounds of surprise and shock while internally celebrating the thoroughness of Catherine Wellington's revenge. "The best part," Jake continued, "is that Catherine didn't just destroy his career. She filed for divorce the same day she went to HR. And apparently, their prenup has a morality clause. If he cheats, she gets everything. The house in the Hamptons, the apartment on the Upper East Side, probably half his investment portfolio. Marcus Wellington hadn't just lost his job and his reputation. He'd lost his entire life. And Rachel? Well, her fairy tale was about to have an even unhappier ending. 5 months have passed since I sent that anonymous envelope, and the final pieces of Marcus and Rachel's destruction have fallen into place like dominoes in a perfectly executed chain reaction. Marcus was officially terminated by Pemberton and Associates after their internal investigation confirmed everything. The firm couldn't risk the liability of keeping him, especially once word started spreading through Manhattan's tight-knit financial community. His career in high-level consulting is effectively over. No reputable firm will touch someone involved in such a public scandal. Catherine Wellington's divorce was finalized last month, and thanks to that morality clause Jake mentioned, she walked away with almost everything. The Hamptons house, the Manhattan penthouse, the investment accounts, even his prized wine collection. Marcus is apparently living in a studio apartment in Queens and driving a Honda Civic. The fall from grace couldn't have been more complete. Rachel's fate was equally decisive, though it took a bit longer to fully play out. While Pemberton and Associates didn't fire her outright, probably to avoid any potential wrongful termination lawsuits, they made her position impossible. She was a walking scandal, a reminder of the firm's biggest HR disaster in years. After 6 weeks of being professionally shunned and given absolutely nothing meaningful to do, she resigned. Her resignation letter was probably the shortest document she'd ever written at that place. The career she'd sacrificed her integrity for, the partnership track she'd betrayed our relationship to pursue, was finished. A quick LinkedIn search shows she's been unemployed for 3 months now. Apparently, a scandal involving a major consulting firm's managing partner tends to follow you around the industry. She tried to contact me one final time about 8 weeks ago. She didn't call, she knew I'd blocked her number. Instead, she showed up at my apartment building and buzzed the intercom. "Stephen, please?" Her voice came through the speaker, strained and desperate. "We need to talk. I need to see you. I need to explain." I had zero interest in seeing her face or hearing her justifications. "There's nothing to explain, Rachel," I said, keeping my voice flat and final. "And there's definitely nothing to talk about. You destroyed my life," she sobbed through the intercom. "My career, my reputation, everything I worked for. It's all gone because of you. How could you do this to me?" I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. "Let's be very clear about something," I said. "I didn't do anything to you. I simply forwarded some documentation to another stakeholder in your project. You and Marcus built your success on lies and betrayal. The foundation was rotten from the beginning. All I did was show the building inspector what was really holding the structure up." I paused, letting that sink in. "You were never a rising star, Rachel. You were just a liability waiting to be discovered. The fact that everything collapsed when people saw the truth? That's on you and Marcus, not me. You're the architects of your own destruction. Stephen, please?" "Goodbye, Rachel." I cut the connection and turned off the intercom. She stayed outside for about 15 minutes, probably hoping I'd change my mind. Eventually she gave up and left. I haven't heard from her since. My life now is everything I didn't realize I was missing. It's quiet, stable, and entirely my own. I got promoted at work. Turns out when you're not spending all your emotional energy managing someone else's drama, you have a lot more focus for your own ambitions. I learned something valuable from this whole experience. A relationship should be a partnership, not an unpaid internship. You should never be the support staff for someone else's life, especially when they have no intention of ever making you an equal partner. The revenge I took was indirect, but it was total. I didn't have to fight them directly, didn't have to get my hands dirty with confrontations or public scenes. I just held up a mirror and forced them, and the world they cared about, to see what they really were. The consequences were natural, inevitable, and absolutely perfect. And the peace that comes from reclaiming your self-respect? That's the best kind of success story there is.